Boom. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, for another YouTube video. Allincrypto here, and today we are going to be dropping another jam-packed daily cryptocurrency market update. And as always, if you are new to this channel and finding yourself on my videos for the first time today, don't forget to check out that subscribe button, because we drop an update just like this one around 1 p.m. UK time every single day to help you guys stay up to date with the latest and greatest things happening within the crypto space, but also the broader markets. That's exactly what we're going to be trying to do in this video. And it is a turbulent day for the cryptocurrency space, and we are going to be trying to kind of conceptualize and normalize what's taking place. We're going to be taking a look at things technically, of course, but we are going to be starting the video off in regards to some news kind of surrounding the cryptocurrency space. We have CZ's sentence being handed to him. He only got 4 months. I'm very happy about this because I actually like CZ. I think he was a good actor in the cryptocurrency space, and the US government really did him dirty as somebody that they kind of couldn't control, and kind of have done a bit of a hostile takeover of Binance. It's no coincidence that they took CZ out and then approved a Bitcoin spot ETF. But we'll be starting the video off there. Also talking about some news in regards to Bitcoin Jesus, Roger Ver, who essentially, I believe, was a founder of Bitcoin Cash. They are now indicting him over not paying capital gains back in 2017 on his Bitcoin. He's been essentially indicted by the Department of Justice. Interesting news. We also have news that Patrick McHenry, one of the congressional members, is Carolina's 10th congressional district chairman, essentially has came out and is now accusing Gensler of knowingly misleading Congress when pressed on classification of Ethereum at the financial hearing to conduct oversight of his agency. This is following on from what we looked at yesterday. We looked at the fact that Gary Gensler had approved an Ethereum futures ETF and products around that, but he hadn't classified them as an SFP, which stands for Securities Future Product. There's this kind of, the two, CFTC is saying Ethereum's not a security. Gensler's saying, but not officially, that it is, or he's allowed a Ethereum futures ETF, but not classified it as an SFP, which means he's kind of saying that he hasn't got the jurisdiction to actually classify it and regulate it as a security. And this is kind of further continuation of this in regards to what Patrick McHenry is now doing. So interesting news. Then, of course, we're going to be coming over to the price. Bitcoin down around about 5% today. Bitcoin really taking the brunt of this pullback today. Altcoin's actually doing okay against Bitcoin. You've got a lot of things going on internally with Bitcoin in regards to the ETFs. We're going to be looking at that. We'll be recapping on what happened with the Hong Kong Dong. In regards to the ETFs being approved over there and actually going live, and the kind of disappointment that we saw around that. There's good news in that in regards to the share that Ethereum took up. It shows a clear appetite for Ethereum. I think we're going to see a similar thing play out in the US when Ethereum does eventually get an ETF. And then we'll talk about some outflows that we saw in the cryptocurrency space generally. So a lot going on internally for Bitcoin, but more broadly, there's a lot going on for markets, okay? And we'll show you all this. It's still the case. So what's happening with markets now on the kind of 5,000 foot view looking down is that you've got sideways inflation that's bolstering your kind of monetary regime, the dollar, implied rate cuts, yields, which is leaning on risk. That is the case in regards to what's happening with markets. The question you have to ask yourself is this now a new trend that's in place, or is this just a short-term bump in the road, and will we resume normality in regards to the uptrend that risk is generally in? I am on this camp of, this is a bump in the road. It is a pullback in what is a broader bull market. And we have spoken about why we are potentially setting up for one of the biggest asset bubbles in history due to the kind of spiraling nature of the debt-based system. That isn't going away, and take maybe some sort of solace in the fact that the game isn't going to change, and proliferation is that game. But we'll talk about all that. We have a lot to get into, so let's kick things off. Like I say, I had to actually leave things out of this because I didn't want it to be too long, because there's so much to cover. So Binance founder Changpeng Zhao sentenced to 4 months in prison after a plea deal. Binance co-founder CZ, who pled guilty to money laundering violations in November, was sentenced to 4 months in prison on Tuesday. US prosecutors had recommended a 36-month sentence for Zhao. The crypto billionaire stepped down as Binance CEO as part of his agreement with the Justice Department. So I'm glad he only got 4 months. I'm sad he got any kind of time. I think CZ did, if you can find me what CZ did wrong to his, or they basically got him on technicalities, but what he did wrong to his customers then please, bring it to the forefront. Because I don't think he did anything really wrong at all, other than the fact that he wasn't controlled by the US, and they basically did a hostile takeover of Binance and thus the industry. Very interesting how they allowed a Bitcoin spot ETF pretty much straight after this. So a little bit of interesting news in regards to, one of the good actors in the crypto space, somebody who I think has played a vital role in getting crypto to where it is. We also have news that Bitcoin Jesus, Roger Ver, also known as Bitcoin Jesus, was arrested over the weekend in Spain for failing to pay capital gain tax on his Bitcoin profits and is expected to be extradited back to the US. They don't like mavericks, guys. They don't like, it's a crazy world that we live in. So Roger Ver indicated for tax fraud, the man, sometimes called Bitcoin Jesus, did not pay capital gains on hundreds of millions of dollars he raised in selling Bitcoin in 2017, the DOJ alleged. So another one bites the dust. Interesting news in regards to what is coming out from Patrick Henry. So this is the Financial Services GOP, US House Committee of Financial Service Republicans, chairman. It's saying classifying ETH as a security contradicts previous statements of the SEC and Chair Gensler. Republicans will continue to hold the SEC accountable for regulatory overreach that is stifling innovation, leaving consumers unprotected and risking our national security. And this is what Patrick McHenry has to say for himself. New court filing indicates that the SEC, Chair Gensler, knowingly misled Congress when pressed on classification of ETH at the Financial Committee hearing to conduct oversight of his agency. Read the full statement. We'll quickly read this. Just months after a federal judge sanctioned the SEC enforcement lawyers for lying to courts, new evidence shows Gensler himself misled Congress in testimony to the Financial Service Committee last April. Chair Gensler refused to answer questions regarding the SEC's classification of Ether. New court filings show this was an intentional attempt to misrepresent the Commission's position. Classifying Ethereum as a security contradicts previous statements of the SEC and Chair Gensler. Yet another example of the arbitrary and capricious nature of the agency's regulation by enforcement approach to digital assets. This episode underscores the urgency of Congress passing the bipartisan FIT for the 21st Century Act to provide a clear regulatory framework and robust consumer protections for digital asset markets. Committee Republicans will continue to hold Gary Gensler's SEC accountable for its regulatory overreach that is stifling innovation, leaving American consumers unprotected and risking national security. My blood boils when it comes to what Gensler's doing in the United States. I mean, it really does. There's no protection of US citizens. I mean, they basically enabled FTX, and he had met with Sam multiple times before the collapse. But I can't help but feel like who Sam was rubbing shoulders with and funding in regards to politicians maybe perhaps helped all of that. This is good news. So crypto. The beautiful thing about being into the crypto space right now, and we'll come onto the markets after I've made this statement, is you're in an asset class that hasn't even been allowed to become an asset class. The vast majority of capital in the world cannot touch crypto because it's with wealth managers like the likes of BlackRock, so on and so forth. And once we've seen the likes of BlackRock actually enable a Bitcoin spot ETF, break down those barriers and those walls, we've seen huge amounts of capital actually flow into Bitcoin. And it's a big part of the bull narrative. It's something that's going to continue. There's a naivety when it comes to the crypto space and investing more generally, because people get into it and they just think, oh, this is just going to be an easy ride and it's going to go straight up. No, there's ups and downs in all markets. Crypto is an amplification of that. And you have to be able to endure that downside to appreciate the upside. Everybody wants those hundreds of percent gains when it comes to crypto. Nobody's willing to deal with what is inherent with the cryptocurrency space, and that is 20, 30, 40, 50% pullback. Certainly when you're talking about the altcoin market. Yet people act like it's something out of the ordinary when it's not. Just go and look at any cryptocurrency chart, certainly an altcoin chart, and you'll see the pullbacks that we've had are actually well within the sort of realms of normality. Yet people want to over-exaggerate them because money's... I understand it, by the way. I'm not really shitting on anyone here. I've just got the maybe foresight of having gone through this multiple times. Nobody, like I say, wants to endure the downside. Everybody wants to appreciate the upside. Well, I'm sorry, but it doesn't work like that. You have to be able to endure the downside to ride the upside. It's that simple, I'm afraid, when it comes to crypto. It's volatile. Your traditional risk management will go out the window, unfortunately, with this space. You see all these ding-dongs on Twitter and YouTube acting like they're better than, and they can perfectly catch the bottom and the top and stuff like this. It's nonsense. Ask them to show receipts. There's the truth. In regards to where I personally got back into the cryptocurrency space, my portfolio is still up. And we've been able to ride the up and down. We still have altcoins 2, 3, 400% up. Okay? And that's not perfectly timing the bottom or the top. That's understanding the broader trend. And the broader trend for markets is still a bullish one. Let's talk about that and move on to it. Let's take a look at Bitcoin to kick things off. And you can see pretty nasty sell-off. Bitcoin was toppy. I'm very hesitant to call a sort of local top in a bull market because you're betting against the trend, but you are going to have pullbacks along the way. And this, in hindsight, did look very toppy. You'd formed a bit of a range that you'd obviously just fallen out of. Now you are falling out. The question is, how low will it go? There may be a bit of insight into that in regards to Bitcoin against the pound or Bitcoin against the euro. You could kind of maybe get some structure out of that, not really getting it in the US dollar. But this is, and it's absolutely important for me to continue to stress this, a broader uptrend. And you are going to have pullbacks, just like you had over here, along the way. It's part and parcel. As long as you maintain on the right side of your 30 weekly moving average, as long as you do not invalidate market structure, expect continuation of the trend. This is a pullback. How low will it go? I'm unsure. I don't think it's going to be too much lower. Is there the possibility for the low 50s? We have seasonality to the markets. We still have a leaning on us based on a strong dollar, which we're going to come to in a second. Another important, or probably the most important chart for me, is really the total 2. So I would love this to not run this right shoulder, which is down here at $862 billion, and give us that, or not run this left shoulder, and give us that right shoulder that we can then break, and we can look for a $3.7 trillion total 2, everything excluding Bitcoin. That's going to be a great run for the altcoin market. It's going to fit our bull market narrative. We need to see if it plays out. We need to see how low this pullback will go. That's basically the mantra here, because we could get invalidated on certain structures. But generally, again, you're still in a broader uptrend. This is crypto. This is how it goes. You look very similar to what you did over here. This can fix itself, but you've got to see that strength coming in. I don't know why people have deviated from what is clearly a broader uptrend. Yes, altcoins are getting thrown around, but still very much following, what's been set out for them. If we look at something like Hedera, this is very much bottoming, we still believe a bottom, and there's an uptrend to come out of this. And we can talk about loads of others. What's really plaguing the markets right now? You've got things going on internally in regards to the crypto space. So yesterday, of course, we had the Chinese dong being banged in regards to the ETFs being approved. Not just approved, being traded. And I think there was only, $12 million traded. About, it's 9.3, I think, million in Bitcoin, and it was 3 million in Ethereum, which is great for Ethereum, by the way. Very well done. Eric Balanchune is timing in here saying, we tried to warn everyone to lower expectations. Really, Hong Kong expectations were 25 billion, Hopium, OD estimate. That said, if you localize numbers, this was big, e.g. China AMC Bitcoin ETF took in $123 million on day one, which already ranks at the 6th out of the 82 ETFs launched in the past 3 years in Hong Kong, so over the top 20. So that just means assets, and that could have been in what was accrued. Earlier this month, it talks about a number of things. But it was, and what it is, it's an unlock of greater capital, and now a kind of a stream that flows into a broader river of Bitcoin. All of this is bullish. It might just not be immediately bullish, and you are seeing big outflows in regards to crypto exchange traded products. This is CoinShares weekly report. It's not, you've seen far more inflows, you've seen more volume in regards to 2020 4, then you have the whole of 2021, which was a raging bull market, but you can see the kind of outflows that you've seen and where you've seen them, largely in Bitcoin and Ethereum. Altcoin's still somewhat holding. Is this the sell in May, come back in St. Lege's Day kind of mantra? Potentially. Let's talk about broadly what's plaguing the markets, and it is basically fears around inflation. So if you look at where inflation upticked for the first time, it was July 2023. Look at where the dollar caught its bottom, July 2023. So we've shown you the correlation. We've got a couple of what I would call risk assets here. Bitcoin, the SPY, and gold. You can see they bottomed at the point where the dollar bottomed or topped. Dollar down, risk up until this point here. Then dollar up on the back end of inflation. Fears, guiding monetary policy, of course, inflation. Risk down, dollar up. Look at where risk bottomed. It's at the top for the dollar. Then risk down or risk up, dollar down. Even here, when the dollar gained strength, you can see most assets kind of went a little bit sideways. As the dollar rolled, they caught a boost. Then they kind of went up with the dollar, and now they're kind of stalling on this dollar strength. So as the dollar sort of broke out, they're stalling on dollar strength. So we need the dollar to roll. I do think the dollar will roll. I do have a broader plan for the Dixie. I think it's going to come down to the lower band of this channel, and I think rates are coming down. I think right now there's just uncertainty around inflation. We're going into summer. We've seen run in things like cocoa and coffee and things like this and oil. I personally think the broader trend is that inflation is going to continue to come down, that risk is going to resume its uptrend, the dollar is going to resume its down. I don't think there's a shift more broadly in regards to what's happening. There's just a bump in the road. Again, going back to the fact that this is crypto, this is how it goes, unfortunately, guys. If you can't handle the heat, get out the kitchen. It's very interesting, we become a hero when the markets go up, and we become a villain when the markets go down. I noticed that in terms of sentiment towards the channel, but that's what we're here for. It's what you should expect when you put yourself out publicly and you try and comment on the cryptocurrency space. It's all about getting the broader trend right, being able to ride the short and the short side downturn in a broader uptrend, being able to deal with the emotions that come with that, having that broader plan in place and coming out victorious as a whole, okay? Any journey, any destination, flight, there's turbulence on it. It's all about when you sort of touch down and your holiday can begin. So that's all from me, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you've enjoyed this one. If you have, a like is always appreciated. So is a comment. I look forward to seeing you all in the next one. Thanks a lot for watching. See you in the next.